Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another great Saturday morning talking college football. Myself, Dave Gloeckner, and Joel Schreck from Win Daily Sports. We'll get into that and the big slate at 12 p.m. right here. What's up, Joel? Man, we had a big week last week. We're honest, right? The week before, we thought we hit some, we were ready, and we didn't have the greatest week. But last week, I know we were talking beforehand. I hit big in a couple of GPPs, but also was able to, at least double my bankroll with some of the investments I had. And today, I'm feeling really good too. How about you?
I had a good week last week. We were on it, so I think we're on a good roll for going into this week. I was telling you before the show, I was sitting in second place in the big GPP last week, all the way through the early games into the fourth quarter of the late games. I knew I was going to get caught, so it was like a sickening feeling just waiting for someone to finally catch me. And of course I did. I ended up getting like fifth or sixth. Still made a good amount of money, but I didn't finish in second, unfortunately. But we are back today to right our wrongs and have a huge Saturday. I am pumped. Love the look of this slate. Ready to break it down with you, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. This slate, it's funny. There's some really nice tight games and some what meet our metrics, a tight spread, big total. We talked about that in WVU pick. Going to be a great spot to land some of our big stacks. But then there's some other really good priced people in different games with bigger spreads that I'm still very interested in. We'll look at OK State, Tulsa, obviously, with another big total and some of those names. But we talked about Washington State off the line. There's some good names out there at good prices. I think we can build some really good lineups today. So I'm pumped and I'm ready to get going.
Yeah, to your point, there's definitely some spots to target. We are going to break it down right now, as we always do. I'll pull my screen up, and we'll go into each game, the depth charts, and who we are targeting, starting with Memphis and Florida State. Listen, Florida State has been a huge disappointment. And if you follow our show, I've been saying since his Clemson days, DJU stinks. He stinks. He stinks. Yeah. He is not good. So the problem with that for this matchup specifically is I just don't think Florida State's going to be getting into any shootouts because I don't think they have a quarterback capable of moving the ball down the field that often for the game to become a shootout. But they're just not that good a team. Even on defense, we've seen teams move the ball on the ground on them with ease. Seth Hennigan has been at Memphis, it feels like 10 years. He's been a good quarterback every year. This is a guy where it feels like you have a very experienced quarterback on an underrated Memphis team. This looks like an upset spot to me. I think Memphis could go on there and win the game outright. I think Hennigan can have a big game. My favorite play on the Memphis side, though, is going to be Mario Anderson Jr. This Florida State team has not been good against the run. He seems to be their best player. They will give him the ball 15 to 20 times out of the backfield. They will throw him the ball as well. Mario Anderson at only 6,200 is the guy I'll be targeting in this game most. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, it's for those of you who've been following for a while. I am a Florida State fan at heart, and everything Joel just said is dead spot on. DJU stinks. The run defense is just an absolute joke. Now, the only thing I'll say is they had a bye week from those two terrible games because they played the early one over in Ireland. So were they able to right the ship a little bit? I don't believe so. But I do believe they have the talent to maybe fix a few little holes. From the Florida State perspective, I don't think they can play much in upward shootout. I'm with you. I just don't think that offense moves at a pace that can stay up with Memphis. So they're going to have to try and slow them down, which means I think they got to sell out for the run. As much as I love Mario Anderson, as much as I'm going to be playing him, based upon what we saw with Florida State, I'm a little more interested in the passing game in Memphis. I think they're going to try and take them through the air. So I'm with you. Hennigan, big play today, I think. Rock Taylor feels like he's been there forever too, right? It's showing Florida State's 20th against receivers. Yeah, okay. That's because nobody threw against them. But Blankenzy, I really like him as well. So I'm interested. I think I can get there where I can tag up two receivers in the 6K range, a quarterback at 8K range, and have a pretty healthy stack. So that's one perspective to take today when going after Memphis. I like Mario Anderson. I'd play him probably alone, but if I'm going to go after the passing game, I don't mind stacking those three.
I think you made a good point that I want to touch on because it's going to come up again on this show. It's only week 3. There's going to be things you see in DraftKings where, like you just said, they're 20th against the pass, right? It's week 3. Look at who they've played. Don't overweight that. I think some teams, and there's more games of examples of this where I'm going to target because I think ownership's going to be skewed by people seeing that. And it's too early in the year for that to hold significant value. And I think you can get an edge from ownership because a team early in the season is doing well against pass, even though they haven't played anyone who throws the ball. So it's a skewed number. So I think that's a really good point you made. And then there's other spots that we could look out for that as well. And I think you make a good point there. Like I said, I really like Hennigan. I think Hennigan's a really good player. He's someone we're going to be playing later in the year. And if you're right, if Florida State goes to stuff the box, I think Hennigan could have a big day. He's got some solid receivers. Rock Taylor is a really good player. So is Blankenship. We saw Blankenship have some big games at the end of last year. These guys have experience. They're returning. I think this is a closer game than people think.
Yep.
I'm okay with getting exposure any which way you think the offense will run.
Yeah, I agree. And understand coming into the year, Florida State's strength was supposed to be their defensive line. Obviously, it hasn't shown, but their inexperience is in the back end. So that's why I think there's a chance that this is the most experienced quarterback they'll play. I mean, when you go up against Georgia Tech and BC, those are 2 running quarterbacks. Hennigan is not a running quarterback. Yeah, will he go a couple times? Maybe. But so I think there's definite value. I mean, 8K, he's one of the lower priced quarterbacks on the board. So, and we're looking at a total 54.5, which is the 3rd highest on the board. So for all those reasons, I think Hennigan's a great play. On the Florida State side, it's tough. I mean, it's a ball share kind of backfield. It's a ball share kind of receiver room. They do have talent out wide, speed, but I don't know if there's anybody to trust. Like Roydell Williams, you should, but they're giving him the ball. What did we see so far? Like 9 carries in one game, 6 in the other. It just hasn't been enough volume for me. So I don't know if I can get really anywhere for Florida State unless you want to throw maybe a Hail Mary at one of the receivers. Some of the guys they've been looking at that have done well. Portier, he's fast, he's quick, and he's only 3,400. He's a guy with value I think you could get today. Otherwise, I don't know if I could put my sword down on any of them.
Yeah, I'm out on Florida State. For the reasons you mentioned, too much. They're sharing the wealth too much. There's not enough concentrated targets or carries. They aren't that explosive in offense. So I will target a couple Memphis guys, but I'm out on Florida State for today.
All right.
All right, we'll move over to this Tulsa-Oklahoma State game. Listen, Oklahoma State's going to be involved from a fantasy perspective every week. This is a 3 receivers who potentially have NFL talent. They have the best running back in the country. All that talent around. Alan Bowman can look good in this offense as the quarterback. They don't have a good defense, so it's a perfect game script for DFS purposes. So we're going to love Oklahoma State every week. It's a matter of where you can find the right pricing. And the other side of the ball, Tulsa is the team that's got to keep up with them, which is just a good game script for fantasy purposes. I'll start here. My favorite play in this game is actually going to be on the Tulsa side, and that's Tulsa's number 1 receiver, Camden Benjamin. Mm-hmm. At only 5,700, I think he's underpriced. Oklahoma State, I believe, will have a lead. They'll be playing from behind, which means I think they're just going to pepper Benjamin with targets. I think he's going to have an opportunity to catch 7 to 10 balls, go over 100 yards. If he scores a touchdown, that's just gravy. He might be my highest owned receiver on the day. And then on the Oklahoma State side, the issue you have with Ollie Gordon is he's $10,000. So, he's great. He's going to have a good game. But for him to make up the price of $10K, he's going to have well over 100 yards rushing and probably close to 3 touchdowns. Like, I would tell you 100 yards and 2 is probably not enough for $10K. So he's got to have a huge day to even make the salary work. I'm probably not going to be too exposed to Gordon just because it's too hard to build a competitive lineup with him in there. The guys I'll be targeting on the Oklahoma State side is this receiving core. I think all 3 of these guys are in play. They have 3 receivers. Stribling and Owens are more affordable. Presley's the number 1 guy. I think you can get any of them in there. I think they all have the opportunity to have a big game. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I think you're spot on about a lot of that stuff. I do think give a shout out to Kirk Francis, the Tulsa quarterback at only 6K. I think we can really get him involved. It was we're big on the Arkansas stack last week, and we love quarterback, and they popped. I can't believe they lost that game. It's still insane with Cincinnati. Shame on you for trying to coach, differently in the 4th quarter and bleed out a win because it wasn't good the way that those 2 teams ended up losing their games. But it does show the vulnerability in OK State, right? So for me, I'm looking more at, and we talked about this, if I do get some Ollie Gordon, which I will, but it's not going to be probably as heavy as a lot of others. It's going to be 1. He's going to be running naked because if you get him to pay off his salary, you need probably 35, 40. And that means you need him and nobody else on Oklahoma State to pop, or rarely anybody else. So I'm going to be playing him in one, if not maybe if I go with Stribling just to catch a touchdown here or there because it's the cheaper receiver with the volume, I'll do that. Other side, I do think Bowman has, again, 8,300, a guy that can put up a ton of yards in the air. He just doesn't run a lot. But Tulsa's D, I mean, it is not good. So, I mean, we have a chance to really attack. And I'm with you. If I go Bowman, then I'll probably take one receiver, hoping like someone like Presley goes off. Or I go naked with Bowman, 2 receivers, or I go naked with Gordon with nobody. So that's kind of where I'm at. OK State. I got to get a piece of it. This game's 63. And the spreads come down from 20 to 17.5. So there's some action on Tulsa to think that Tulsa might be able to compete a little bit. So that's where I'm at. And I'm with you. Best receiver, Camden Benjamin. I love it. Did you see this other guy's name? What's it? Tiptoe or Steptoe? Great.
Steptoe?
Yeah, I love the name from Tulsa.
That is a good name. And it looks like Brennan Presley's brother, Braylon, also plays for Tulsa. I don't know if they're brothers, but the name's close enough that I figure I'd make that up for the universe. All right, we'll move this on over to the Bama-Wisconsin game. Fun game. Not a lot that I love for DFS purposes. I also heard from the weather forecast it's going to be pretty windy out there, so might be tough to air it out. Obviously Milrow's in play every week. The one thing I'll say, obviously Gordon could have a better game than Milrow, but they're the same price. And the difference is Milrow will run the ball a ton too, but Milrow could throw for 200 yards and a touchdown or two, which Gordon won't do. And that's why, if I'm going to pay $10K, I'd rather do it on someone like Milrow, who just has the upside to throw for a couple of scores as well as run for 100 and a score or two. Is this the best matchup? I kind of almost feel like Milrow is matchup proof by the way they play him, with the amount that he runs. I just think it's hard to play anyone at 10K in DFS, so I won't be overly exposed, but maybe I'll have a lineup or two. My favorite play in this game is going to be Will Pauling on Wisconsin. He's 5,100. He's just a value play. It's a slate that's hard to find a ton of value. Will Pauling's their number one guy. They have an improved quarterback. If you remember, Tyler Van Dyke transferred from Miami. So he can throw the ball a little bit. I think Alabama's going to be tough up front. Won't be easy for Wisconsin to move the ball on the run. They'll have to go to the air. I do see a possibility of Will Pauling maybe getting 6 or 7 catches today against this Alabama defense. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I like it. And thanks, Warren. Joel was onto something there. Presley, they are brothers. The Tulsa one's a little bit older.
I didn't make that up. There you
go. Yeah, good catch. Yeah, Bama's still Bama, right? I mean, they're 21st in total defense right now, but more importantly, they're 6th in yards per play, just 3.05. They've only allowed 1 real touchdown. South Florida hung in there, I guess, until the early 4th, and then the doors were absolutely blown off. Alabama woke up and said this isn't 2023. So I think that was a good quality win for Alabama. I think the defense is legit once again. And as we all know, where does Wisconsin struggle? They struggle on offense. Van Dyke didn't even look good in his first start. Got a little better in the second, but I do have some concerns that they'll be able to move the ball at all. So I'm kind of way off on Wisconsin. I get the polling play. I can get there with that, especially if they got to put up some air yards late in the game. And at 5,100, why not, right? Pretty good for a high volume receiver. But from the Alabama side, yeah, I got to go Milrow. And then if we want to mix in, they've always found a way to get the ball out wide. Prentice is one of their quick speedsters, but looks like Williams might be the guy they're favoring this year. So Williams or Prentice for me. I'm still not giving up on Kobe. I think he's a guy that's going to get, his one of these days. So I'm still in on Prentice, but yeah, Alabama, I probably won't. 7,300 is too much for a starting running back against Wisconsin, especially when Milrow is going to get the goal line carries when he needs to. So yeah, I'm with you. Milrow, a couple receivers, and maybe Pauling.
Of the two, I actually prefer Miller to Haynes of the two Alabama running backs. But
the cheaper one. Yeah.
If they're going to split carries, it almost makes the backfield useless because there's not enough volume to play either one of them, I think, in the 7K range. But, I think Jam Miller has the upside. He's younger. He's a little bit more explosive, but I probably won't be having much exposure to either one.
Yeah, and Warren, to your point, yeah, Williams does look like the real deal. We talk about guys coming through Alabama. I mean, it started, days with Amari Cooper, but, Devontae Smith getting the Heisman there. They always find these guys out wide that are just really, really good.
Yeah.
So he looks like the next one in line. Almost, LSU has taken the center stage of receivers lately. Now Bama's like, not our turn. So, and Ohio State, I can't forget how good they are at receiver. But I mean, to take two to the house last week for 139, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, he looks good. He could be
17 too. Yeah, you're right. I knew he was young freshman, but at 17, wow.
Oh, I didn't realize he was that young. Wow. So he definitely has a promising future. Speaking of LSU, we have this LSU South Carolina game. This should be interesting. This LSU team is a little bit disappointing. I don't think they're as good as people thought they were going to be. I think this game is going to be closer. I think South Carolina makes this a competitive game. The target I like in this game most, I think I mentioned him last week. I'm going to say it again. Raheem Sanders, the South Carolina running back. LSU has looked poor in the rush defense. South Carolina wants to establish the run, both with Sellers at the quarterback and with Sanders. Sanders had 24 carries week one, regressed a little bit last week. I think they look to get him very involved this week. I think they want to establish the ground game, keep LSU offense off the field. And the biggest thing is he's under 5K for a featured running back against a team that is weak against the run. Raheem Sanders was once an all-SEC player. I think Raheem Sanders has a ton of upside in this matchup today.
Yeah, I'd like, South Carolina, anyone outside of Hootie and the Blowfish probably didn't think they'd be much this year. He picked them Darius Rucker picked them to make the college football playoffs, but they're sneaky so far. 2-0 out of the gates. A huge win in Kentucky. I mean, a pure dominating game where they won 31-6 against, a big SEC rival. Defense is playing well. I mean, it's, top 30 right now in points per game, averaging, I think they're allowing 12 and a half. So as much as LSU has talent and, they just haven't looked the same with Nussmeier back there. I think they were pumped coming off the bowl game that he would be, the next Jaden Daniels. He's put up some good hollow stats, but I'm not so sure we're there with him. I mean, he beat Nicholls State, but he really got outplayed in the USC game. I mean, the proof was in the pudding. Brian Kelly even said it. So for 9,100, I think that's just too much for me. Against the South Carolina D that's shown to be pretty good, shut down another very good quarterback last week. So, I'm more in the other areas of the LSU game, but I'm off quarterback. And I think you said are you in on Nussmeier or no?
No, absolutely not. Listen,
okay, good.
To your point that you made, they lost 2 first-round pick receivers. I mean,
yes.
Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Lacey's good, but he's not the first-round pick wide receiver.
Not 400 good either. Yeah.
And Nussmeier doesn't run like Daniels did. So you got a guy who's just got a pass to worse receivers, and he's not going to run the end. 9,100 is way too much money. I think we can find better spots at quarterback.
I agree. And the total's a little tricky for an LSU South Carolina game. 47.5 is in the middle to bottom tier of this today. So, I like Sanders on the other side. Way too cheap to pass up. But, I'm not in love with anything. I don't think this is an offensive explosion. Look, Lacey is really good. If somehow you can build your team around him and use some of the cheaper players, I am good with that. At 8,400, he will get a ton of targets. He's had 19 in 2 games. But, again, 8,400, so it's much. You got to build in some other areas like your 5Ks to hit, like your Will Paulings. So
you can't play Lacey and Ollie Gordon or Milrow or any of those guys. So if you're going to make Lacey your go-to guy, you need him to have a big day. Which I think Lacey's very good. I think he has a good day, but then to pay off 8,400, it's got to be huge. I just rather have my best player somewhere else.
Yeah, agreed. And then checking in, we got Warren talking about Harbor here. Nick Harbor going to have a breakout day.
Nick Harbor was the talk of the town. He's a huge 5-star recruit. He's massive, super fast. On paper, he's a complete stud, but he's just not that good. I don't think they really target him that much. Listen, everyone he's hyped up a lot, and I'm going to have to play though. Once he shows me something, we can consider him, but he hasn't shown us anything yet. So it's hard to play Nick Harbor. 3,500.
I mean, he was someone I started if you want to just really just take a flyer in GPPs, not cash. Yeah, maybe. Hey, it's like Portier, like I said, for Florida State, 3,400. Yeah, possible if you've really built up your. But don't. I mean, last week we hit on a 3K guy, but he was 0 until almost overtime. Yeah. But tight end for Arkansas, so you got to sweat these 3K guys sometimes. Is my point.
Exactly. And I'd rather take a shot on the tight end who's on the field every play than Nick Harbor, who we know has upside but hasn't really been involved thus far.
Yep.
All right, let's move over to this BC Missouri game. This is my game of the week that I think is sneaky. I think people are going to sleep on this game. This is the one of the examples I was mentioning earlier where Missouri is going to look like they're number one in defense, and everyone might be scared away of this Missouri defense. Missouri hasn't played anyone. Let's not anoint them as the best defense. They lost a lot of guys in their defense last year. They've played a couple cupcake teams thus far. Boston College is by far the best team they're going to place. I wouldn't be overly scared by the defensive ranking being, top 10. I think Boston College with Thomas Castellanos and Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator, or the head coach, running this offense. I think this Boston College team is sneaky. They have a very good quarterback who has legs, who's under 8K. I think this Boston College team makes this a competitive game. I think Castellanos is very much in play. I think there's going to be a more of a back and forth type of game than people think. And this offense runs through Castellanos. And Bill O'Brien can scheme up an offense as good as anybody. He'll have a scheme that puts him in a place to succeed. Castellanos can run 2 touchdowns in. He can throw for 200. I really like Castellanos as a quarterback target at under 8K. I think he can easily get you some upside with that. You don't have to pair him with one. You can play Castellanos naked, which I would probably do more often than not. But if you want to pair him with somebody, Lewis Bond is a transfer from Alabama. He's a speedster. He can break a deep ball. He's under 5K, so there's plenty of upside there. The number one target to pair Castellanos with will be Bond. On the other side for me, Luther Burden is one of the best receivers in the country. He hasn't really done anything yet this year. The big Luther Burden game is coming. Same issue arises here where that he's 9K, so he needs to have a huge game for it to pay off. I do think that game's coming. In lineups that I play Castellanos and Bond, and I want to do a game stack, I will look to get a little exposure to Burden, but he's really the only guy on the Missouri side I'm heavily targeting.
Okay, yeah, I like it. Castellanos he's a gamer. That's what I call Castellanos. Like, he's a guy that's going to tuck, run, get beat up. He's not huge, and he's going to run back under center and do it again. He is a gamer of gamers. Yeah, and I'm with you on Bond. It's been interesting. They just haven't been able to, open up that passing game yet because they haven't needed to. Robichaux has been really good back there at running back. So you have some options there. But I feel like this is the big Mizzou day. You talked about Burden hasn't had it yet. Can you really hold him down for 3 straight games? I don't think so. I'm in love with Burden today. I really, really like. I know 9K is a lot. We've talked about some 9Ks, but you can fit 9K today. It's the challenge I'm going to have is, do I pair him with Cook? And I want to, and I will in some lineups, but some I'm going to run him, just alone and let him go nuts. I like Brady Cook a lot today. I think it's one of those days. They're the second highest implied team total on the board, 35, 36, somewhere in that range. Mizzou is an explosive offense, and they really haven't had to go nuts yet, but they're about to get into this SEC schedule where we're going to see them go nuts. And I think it might start today. Like you said, I think BC is game enough. I mean, for everybody that knows, they got the old Texans coach, Bill O'Brien, the old Patriots guy with the little dimple. He's the head coach there now. He's going to inspire and build some toughness with that team. Old Penn State coach, I should even say. But so he's definitely building his approach to this. They're going to want to slow it down and play some tough ball. But I think Mizzou is going to be good enough to open it up, and they're going to have to, at some point, try and play catch up. And that's when I think you get your points still out of the quarterback there. And I think Bond does have a good day today.
Boom. There you have it. All right, let's move this on over to the Tulane, Oklahoma game. I think this game is very intriguing. I'll step outside of just DFS for a second. I think Tulane wins this game. I think the Oklahoma team is overrated. They have a good defense. This offense has not looked very good thus far. They didn't look good running the ball. Arnold has more to prove. Arnold cannot be considered at 9,700. It's way too what we've seen thus far. Maybe someone want to play one of their receivers, but I just don't think this offense has shown me enough to garner anything. And Tulane impressed last week against Kansas State. This is a good Tulane team with, Mensah's, new to at quarterback and only 60-100. He looked good last week. But Mekhi Hughes, we mentioned last week, we didn't like him last week because of the matchup, but he ended up having a big day. This Oklahoma team is a stout defense. Not a great matchup here, but he's proven last week he's matchup proof. They're going to feed him the ball. Mekhi Hughes is a really good player. He's definitely in play on the Tulane side. And Mario Williams, a transfer from USC, has been their number one target. He's 6K. They're getting him the ball. He's someone I would also consider, but I really think Tulane's going to upset Oklahoma today.
I think there's a chance. I mean, one of the picks I put up on Discord last week was Houston getting the 27.5, 28 against Oklahoma. I saw Oklahoma play against Temple the first week of the year, being from Philly, kind of kept my eyes on that, and they did not look. Temple, it should be probably the 131st team in football, like bad, right? And Oklahoma, okay, yeah, they eventually pulled away, but they didn't look like a dominating force against Temple. They were letting up some big runs, some big plays, some chunk plays. And last week, 16-12. It's ugly. I'm not sure what they are. And I'm with you. Like, it's a team I thought would not get to the college football playoffs. I think they just got too much on their shoulders stepping up the SEC play, but they don't step up soon enough. They might have to struggle for a bowl game. I mean, they should get there, but yeah, Arnold hasn't looked good. No way I get that 6,700. Oh, yeah. Williams is a former OU receiver. Yeah. He's had a great start. So, yeah, there's some revenge on the mind there, too. So, I'm with you. I think Tulane hangs in this game. And here's that case again. Oklahoma has played a futile Temple team, and a not very good Houston offense. And they're like third in the NCAA in points. They're 35th in yards per game at 257. So look at that. They haven't let up the points, but let up some yards to bad teams. Don't be scared. Malachi Hughes, I think I'm back in, or Mackay, I should say. I'm back in today. I'm back in with Williams. I think I'm taking some Tulsa stacks, and I'm laying off Oklahoma. They haven't even given Salchuk the ball. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree. I thought Salchuk would be the guy. He doesn't seem to be involved. Too many mouths to feed. It's hard to play too many guys on the Oklahoma side in this game for sure. All right, keeping this train moving to Nevada, Minnesota. It's interesting. You would think Nevada and Minnesota, not much interest, but I actually have a bunch of interest in this game on both sides of the ball. I'm intrigued with. I'll start with Minnesota. Darius Taylor, an absolute stud last year. Was hurt to start the year, had a hamstring issue. Looks to be healthy now. Had 14 carries against URI. Was a blowout. No need to play him too much. I think this will be a little bit more competitive. Darius Taylor has the upside to be the number one running back on the slate. They throw him the ball. They might hand it to him 20, 25 times. He's probably my number one running back play on the board today. Also on the Minnesota time, the number one receiver, Daniel Jackson at under 6K, I think is a really good pricing. He hasn't had a big week yet this year, but this is a star receiver. I think he eventually plays on Sundays at under 6K. I think Daniel Jackson is very much so in play for me on the Minnesota side. On the Nevada side, they have two receivers that get peppered with targets that are 44 and 4,200 that you just have to consider because of price. Both these guys have some upside just because of the volume they'll see, and that's Cortez Braham and Jaden Smith. Jaden Smith is a big guy, 6'6", can score a touchdown. He's been the most targeted receiver on the team thus far. He'd be my favorite at 4,200. Plenty of upside as a value receiver in this game.
Yeah, I like all that. Darius Taylor had I think a little injury in the first game against North Carolina. And, going into last week against, who was it? They played Rhode Island. Weren't sure if it's going to be in a share situation with Marcus Major. I think he's a former Oklahoma guy. And it wasn't. He doubled him in carries. And like you said, he does it all because he's in the passing game as well. And we saw that a little bit last week with 4 receptions for 48. So we know he's going to get the majority of the snaps. Now we know he's getting the majority of the carries, and he's receiving the ball. Great play. I think he's one of my favorite running backs. When we get to the end of the show, we'll talk about our favorites at each position. He's going to be a name that comes up and going to be at the top of our list. So big play there. Love it. Nevada just not very good against the run either. Add that to it. So I think that's a big day. It's interesting with Savion Red, right? He hasn't he's only averaged 10, 11 carries a game here, but he's got 254 yards and a 7.5 yards per carry. I think it's interesting. I wish he would get the ball more. At 4,800, I think you got to consider him, the running back out of Nevada. But if you're going to do anything, stick to their passing game as well. I'm with you. Braham at 4,400, those targets he's getting, that's an amazing price.
Yeah, I am with you as well. All right. Moving over to the Oregon State game. This one's interesting. This is another game. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an upset. I mean, Oregon has not looked as good as we thought they would thus far this year. Oregon State, it was always competitive. There's always a rivalry game. The Oregon State's rushing attack has looked very strong thus far this year. I think this game can become very interesting. That's especially valuable if you want to target this game because I do think it does have some shootout potential. On the Oregon State side, it's the rushing attack I'm interested in, specifically Jam Griffin. They are feeding him the ball. The thing is, they are also getting Hankerson involved. They both could hit. I mean, they're both getting so many carries. They're not there running the ball, but they're both in play. But Jim Griffin's the alpha here, so he'd be the one I'd be targeting. I also have interest in Trent Walker. He has got peppered with targets. He had 8 catches last week. If this is a shootout game and Oregon decides to pack the box, he's the guy they're going to go to at 4,400. The price is right. He is certainly affordable, and I think you can certainly get some upside. On the Oregon side, these guys are good. I just think they're priced up so much. It's hard to play a lot of them because you have to pay so much. My preferred target will be at the receiver end. Evan Stewart, who has big playability, and Tez Johnson, who's the go-to guy, will be the 2 I'm targeting. But I won't be overexposed because I think the price is a little bit too high.
Yeah, I'm in on the Oregon passing game. I'm with you. It looked a little ugly, but I think Gabriel's completing like 80+% of his passes. There's still a little bit of like familiarity to get through here. And I think there's one of those big weeks we talked about with Burden. It's coming. And with Oregon stepping up in competition, starting their Big Ten schedule, I think next week, this one's big. And let's give Boise some credit. That's a solid team. A team that I think can make the college football playoffs still, even with like a close loss to Oregon. I think that even looks better for them if they sweep the slate the rest of the year and get in as the best non-Power 4 conference winner. I like Gabriel a lot today. If I'm going to pay up for a quarterback, and I'm going to have to somewhere, it's Milroe and Gabriel. And I think, what we've seen out of the passing game is they're still trying to air it out. And then I got to tag. It's going to be tough. With Tez is 85, Dylan's 99. It's going to be tough to get him. So, like you said, Evan Stewart, the transfer from Texas A&M, was it, I think?
I believe so, yeah.
I think he's A&M. And I think he was awesome last year. And now he's getting his chance to shine here. Holden would be another one I'd double up. And let's not forget, we're tight end central here, right? We can't forget the big guy, Terrace Ferguson, who, the way he works for Oregon is he'll get you 21 week and 0 the next. So maybe it's one of those 20s coming. He's averaged 10 and at 4,800. I still think he's affordable. So if I'm going to get Gabriel involved, I'm going to get Ferguson involved. I'm going to get one other receiver and try and stack it 3 ways there. And then, on the other side, Oregon State, I think you knocked and nailed each one of their, value plays. Oregon can be had still defensively. They're solid, but Boise put up 34 against them.
Yeah. Boise's got the best running back in the country. They give him the ball every time, which I think to be interesting. But I think to your point, I think it shows this Oregon team and defense specifically can be beaten. All right. Washington State, Washington. Let's keep an eye on the weather. I heard there's going to be rain. I don't think that's going to stop me. This is my sneaky shootout game of the week. I am going to be heavily targeting this game. If you've been following Washington State, their offense looks good. John Mateer is a young guy who has legs. They have him running all over the field. Probably not as proven of a passer. So there could be concerns there. But boy, can he run the ball. And their defense stinks. So I think this game is going to become a shootout, and it's going to have some back and forth potential. Mateer might end up being my number 1 owned quarterback of the day. I don't know what he's going to be able to do passing the ball against an improved defense, but we know he's going to get the ball on the ground, and they're going to try and run with him, and there's plenty of upside that comes with that rushing attack. So at under 9K, Mateer is a guy I definitely want to target. And if I'm playing Mateer, like I said, the Washington State defense is bad. I think this Washington offense is going to score a lot of points. The number 1 guy I'm targeting is the running back, Jonah Coleman. He's a transfer from Arizona. He was great last year. He's going to be featured this year. He's been really good in limited opportunities. I think he gets his most carries of the year this week. And I think he has the opportunity to break this late at 6,800. He's going to be one of my top exposed back of the day. The issue with this passing game, I think one of these receivers has a big day, but they do spread the love. It's hard to pinpoint which one it's going to be. Jeremiah Hunter is a transfer from Cal. He was a stud at Cal. He's the number 1 guy. At 5,900, he's the cheapest. I think he offers just as much upside as the others. So he's my favorite target because I feel like you can get some value there with Hunter. What about you, Dave? Are you targeting this game?
Yeah, I'm going to stick to where you're at a little bit on the Washington State side. Mateer is great, 21 carries last game. I don't know what they'll be able to do running-wise against Washington. Decent defensive front, but they've shown that they've been able to open up holes for him. I think he's a great play today. Any quarterback that can almost go for 200 yards rushing or has that potential is someone we should strongly consider. And 8,900, when you compare him to others, he's going to be on the cheaper end of some of the big quarterbacks you have out there today. Washington State, I also look to pair him up with Chris Hudson. He's had 6 targets in both of the 2 weeks he's played so far. So at 4,900, I like that consistency. He's been able to come in with an average of 14.3. So as much as Williams is their number one guy for, 2,100 more, I think that's just a little much for me when I know there's a guy out there that's going to want to run the ball a lot. So running back, love the call. But I'm leaning towards Hudson on Washington State. And then, receivers, it's tricky with Washington, right? I think Hunter is my favorite out of all of them, but Boston's been pretty consistent as well. Giles Jackson, they're all fairly priced. Giles has sat there and got 10 catches or 10 targets and 5. So it's been a little kind of a roller coaster there where I might stick more in the range with Hunter and Boston, like you said. So this is a great environment, but Coleman's my favorite altogether on Washington. And we've seen it. Washington State had Cam Ward last year, now down in Miami. They want to play, and it hasn't changed much since Mike Leach's days of that, run and gun style football. They do want to play a little bit pace. So keep an eye on the weather. That is absolutely what Joel said is dead on. And we got to make sure that it's at least somewhat dry up there for this to really become the track race that we want it to be.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We'll take a look at this Texas A&M Florida game. I don't know. Is Graham Mertz playing? Has that been confirmed, or is he out?
There's no designation on him right now. So from what I heard, I think he's in line to start. I watched Game Day earlier before I hopped on. They were starting to talk about it. So update Sear says from Chris Lowe that he is going to play. So it looks like it.
All right. Well, Mertz is playing. I think it makes the passing game on Florida a little bit more interesting. Eugene Wilson is obviously the big news. Wilson's their best pass catcher. He's their best probably player. I like Wilson because he's hurt. I probably won't be exposed to him if he plays because I'm not sure if he'll be limited or not. I think the biggest thing I'll be looking at is if Wilson ends up not playing, then I will be very interested in Elijah Badger, who's the second receiver who will, garner more targets. That's the flex there because Badger's, 4,800. He's affordable. And if he becomes the number one receiver, he's the guy I'll be targeting. Other than that, in this game, I'm really not too interested. I do like Montrell Johnson Jr. This Texas A&M team can be beat against the ground. Johnson has been getting more and more carries. I think the biggest playmaker on Florida is going to be the run game. I will go for Johnson in this spot, but other than that, I'll probably have limited exposure.
Yeah, I'm going to look at Texas A&M. I'll tell you why. I watched what Miami did to Florida, and Cam Ward went for I think 350 plus, couple touchdowns. It wasn't even close. They couldn't do anything to stop or slow down Miami. Texas A&M's had really a tough go so far. They've had to play Notre Dame, right? So we saw what Notre Dame did last week. Probably a little bit overhyped coming off that huge victory down at College Station, but I think there's an opportunity here to really, the stats don't look like Texas A&M has done much, but in that breath, they've had some tough matchups, and Florida is not a tough matchup. So I'm going to get a little risky. Weidman's good. His points aren't showing it, but he's an NFL prototype quarterback, and he was skyrocketing up those charts until he got hurt last year. So I'm going to look at Weidman down at 8,100. I think he falls in that range that we talked about earlier with the Memphis quarterback, Hennigan. So I like him. Moss has been very good so far this year. And then I'm really going to look at the wide receivers here. Right now, they're saying it's a game time decision. I'm getting asked if, Weidman's going to play. I'm leaning to he could miss. I get it. But right now I'm putting him in until I know it's a 3:30 game. I'll probably put someone else in at 3:30 that I can easily shift off of. But if he does play, I like it against this Florida defense. It's atrocious. And then in the receiver area, Walker's had the 6 targets, so I thought that was pretty good. He was held to only 31 yards, but Jade Walker is one of their top receivers that I'll be focusing on at only 5,400.
Boom. There you have it.
And then Josh is checking in, and he did say Mertz is confirmed, but he thinks Lagway will be mixing. And you know what? I think every card is on the table for Florida right now. I think it's very possible.
From what I've seen thus far, I probably would prefer Lagway to be in there. So.
Yeah, I wish it was all Lagway.
Exactly. So I'm not either way with or without Mertz. I'm not playing either guy until there's more clarity on because you can't have a quarterback split in time.
Yeah, and A&M's D is decent. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we can't get through this show without touching on Pitt, West Virginia. This is going to be probably my highest exposed game of the week. This has shootout potential. Pittsburgh plays incredibly fast in the new offensive coordinator. West Virginia has a dual threat quarterback with legs at under 8K. There is a lot to like about this game environment. The only thing negative I can say about Garrett Green is the amount of ownership he's going to carry in a DFS slate because he might be the highest owned player today. But rightfully so and deserving so. This Pittsburgh defense is beatable. They're going to play extremely fast. There are going to be a ton of opportunities. Garrett Green's going to run the ball. He's going to throw the ball. He's going to have his most explosive game of the year, and he was mispriced at only 7,800. He should have been in the upper 8K range. Because of that, the ownership will be high, but Garrett Green to me might be my highest owned player of the day. I also think Eli Holstein's in play. They even got him involved last week with the run. He's not super fast. He's not going to be incredibly involved with the run. But if it means he might run one in when they get around the goal line, that is huge, especially for DFS purposes. I think this West Virginia defense is beatable. There'll be plenty of opportunities for them to score, especially in a fast-paced game. So I think both quarterbacks are in play. Both are value in the 7K range. I also love Desmond Reed, who might be the highest-owned running back of the day, but at 6,400, the price is still right. He is their go-to player. He's had 2 huge games. They throw him the ball. They're going to get him 15 to 20 carries. He's very explosive. This West Virginia run defense got tore up against Penn State. I think there's opportunity for this Pittsburgh rushing game to find some success today as well. In the passing game, same reasoning as last week. Mumfield is the go-to guy. I like Mumfield. I know people are looking at the more value receivers and getting other guys involved. That's all fair. Mumfield's the guy. I think he's getting more and more involved. I'm okay with paying up, especially if I'm going to pair somebody with Holstein. I'm looking to play Mumfield. But the sneakier play, and everyone's talking about these receivers, I think people are starting to forget about Gavin Bartholomew, who is an NFL talent tight end. He wasn't as involved last week with only 2 catches. I think they get him back involved. I think he has 5 or 6 catches today if he gets in the end zone at only 3,800. He's my favorite 3K value play of the day. Dave, who are you targeting in this game?
Listen, circle it, star it, and put highlighter through it. 62-point total at a -2 spread. It's the perfect environment to be in. And if you were on Pitt last week and we were on Pitt early with some stuff, I mean, I had Cincy in my bed. That was a tough beat, but I was in them. I thought that was going to be a shootout game. Holstein stunk. I watched that game. He stunk until about quarter 3, and he really started to find his footing there. I mean, he overthrew receivers all throughout the first quarter, meaning I thought he could even been better than what his overall numbers laid out to be. And Mumfield was that guy. He was that guy. He was able to get deep. He was able to get the end zone and the red zone targets and get in the end zone in the red zone as well. So I'm back in on the Pitt passing game. I said last week I wasn't sure if I was going to lean Pitt passing game and fade Reed. And I played Reed a little bit, probably not as much as I should have. There's no more fading Reed. He's just too involved all around. So I think we're really dialed in on Holstein. You can play Holstein Reed. It's no problem. Reed's had a ton of catches in the first 2 weeks. And then in the passing game, I do like Mumfield. If I got to get a little cheap, Sensory Lee at 3,900, he had 10 targets in week 1. I'm still willing to go there. Kenny Johnson looks good too. So you can get a second cheaper receiver if you want to get off Mumfield and you want to play, Reed and Holstein. But on the other side, like you said, we go back to week 1 of this. We love Garrett Green, and we're going to love Garrett Green. We just didn't love him against Penn State. Yes, we love him today, and it's going to be a huge day. Here's the one other thing about Pitt I'll say. West Virginia allowed over 300 yards throwing to Albany. So you do got to get involved in the Pitt passing game. Let's just put it there. But for West Virginia, Joe, why is White more than Donaldson? Like, I know it's a split backfield, but Donaldson still had more carries. He's the more polished running back. He's the guy we've leaned on in years past. I'm a Donaldson guy.
I'm with you. If I'm playing one of them, it's Donaldson over White.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. He's cheaper. I think he's the better play. Even if they were the same price, I'd probably pick Donaldson over White. So I'm with you there. The only issue there is that both will play. So it's hard to hit your ceiling when you're splitting carries. But I think Donaldson does have big play potential. He breaks off a long one. He'll be able to hit value.
Yeah. So that's one. And then in the passing game, I mean, they just haven't been able to open it up yet. I will look to get some involved in a little bit of the West Virginia pass game, not too heavy, but Clement seems like a good target there at 4,800. Had a nice game against Albany, was open against Penn State, had good 17 yards per catch average, just didn't get a lot of volume. So I kind of like him, and I think you got to get lucky if you're going below that.
I agree. Listen, Clement's my preferred target in the passing game, but you don't have to play Green with receiver. You can play run Green alone and not play a pass catcher. So totally up to you.
Yeah, and checking in, the guys talking in the chat about Weigman if he doesn't play Reed at 4.5K. Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's Ollie Gordon / Milrow potential if we're able to get Reed in there at 4.5K, right? I'm targeting this Florida defense. So good point, guys. And before we get into our last game here, let me just remind everyone, we are Win Daily Sports, windailysports.com. As you can see, we got a few things going on, but one of the big things is our Underdog promo code there with the Win Daily 100. You can get a match up to $250 with deposit Win Daily code 100. Looking at, we'll talk about Underdog as well as we get into the end of the show here. We'll also tell you our favorite at each position, really what we're looking to stack, and maybe we'll even build a quick lineup. But yeah, let's get into the final game here. Notre Dame, Purdue. This should be a quick one. This Notre Dame offense is spread out. They're not the most explosive team. I might consider Jeremiah Love at 5,700. They're splitting carries. I don't think there's a ton of upside. I don't love. Yeah, I like it.
Play him. On the other side of the ball, Devin Maccabee is a good player at 4,400. I think he's a value runner you consider. Notre Dame looks like they haven't been great against the run, so I think he could get there. He'd be one of the value running backs I'd be looking to target. I also think the tight end, Max Clare, is interesting at 3,400. He's way too cheap. He might be their number one receiver. So they're going to throw him the ball a lot. To get him at 3,400, it seems like a really good value.
Yeah, I had Max Clare circled as well. I mean, listen, 5 for 71 a touchdown's great. And I know it's Indiana State, but still at 3,400, you can take a shot in the dark here. When we look at good defenses, we tend to want to get the tight end involved just because they're going to want to focus and take some other stuff out. Joel said earlier, tight end is in most plays too, whether he's blocking or going out in a pass route. So that's an advantage, getting the guy on the field, more snap count. So I love Max Clare. Yeah, I'm not going to go crazy on him. But am I going to find him in 10%? Yeah, probably at least 10%. I'll give him a shot. I think we're at that point today where we're probably going to have a top-heavy lineup that needs a few of these guys in the 4s and 3s to really balance it out. So I like that call, and I do like Love. Again, we go back to a little bit of this. Purdue second ranked against the rush, it says on DraftKings, Indiana State. I'll just repeat it, Indiana State. But Maccabee could be interesting too. Maccabee feels like he's been there a long, long time. Again, Indiana State, that it's hard to say. But at 4,400, if I'm not going Claire, I could probably easily sneak in some Maccabee. He's going to get volume.
It's it. Volume and value. That is what we're looking for. That's a wrap for the DFS plays for today. A lot of good spots to target that I'm excited about. But before we let you go, we do have some pick'ems for you from our good friends at Underdog. Dave, I want to start with you. Who are you targeting on the pick'em side?
Yeah, 1-1 last week. What's his name? Let me down. It's going to come to me. Receiver that we had in the Arkansas game. But anyway, it'll come back to me. I'll let you know. But 1-1, not a bad week. So I was excited about that. Oh, no. Raiola let me down. Dylan Raiola, the Nebraska quarterback. I'm looking at my notes. Joel, before I give him my pick, I got a bone to pick with that guy. I'm telling you, I like what Nebraska's doing. I like that they're relevant again. I don't think they've had a winning season in like 10 years. But, I mean, he's got the same facial hair, the same haircut, the same number. He tries to emulate his throws. He does his poses. I mean, it's a little weird going on with Dylan Raiola and the Patrick Mahomes doppelganger in this right now, isn't it? Like, it's just a little weird.
Well, Dave, if you were an 18-year-old college quarterback, wouldn't you want to be Patrick Mahomes? Of course he wants to be Patrick Mahomes. That joke is unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I just think it's a little bit too close to emulating, and it's also copying. Be yourself a little, but I will say it's getting him to talk, right? So I'll agree with him there. He's getting to talk, not just because of his game, but just what he's doing too. So, okay, I'm back. But, yeah, that was weird. They attacked Colorado in several ways, but they didn't score a point in the second half. All right. And one game, we talked about earlier that I've got highlighted, you've got highlighted, is that West Virginia Pitt game. And I'm going to get into, let me see if I can get the exact yards, but I want Garrett Green over his rushing yards.
There it is, 45.5 over. I like that as well. I think they're going to feature Garrett Green today. I think this is going to be a back and forth game. I think he smashes 45 rushing. So I will double that, back that play with you. For me today, I'm going to look at, let's see if I can find it, the actual number here. They don't have it up. I'm looking for the number on Sanders. Let's see if we can find it for rushing yards. Raheem Sanders. I want 70 rushing yards. I'm going to take that. I think this LSU run defense is susceptible. I think this is going to be a good game, and I think South Carolina's strategy is going to be to ground and pound them and keep their offense off the field. I like Sanders over 70.5 rushing yards.
All right, great. And I was going to go into, for my second pick, I was going to go into the Florida A&M game, but just not knowing the stats of Weidman, I initially had Moss combined 86.5 rushing, receiving. I'm going to lay off that one for now, but consider it if we get some good news. And I'm going to go Dylan Gabriel over 305.5 passing yards. Listen, we've said they haven't looked great. And they need to start to look great because they were ranked in the top 5 this season, expected to get in the college football playoffs, and they need to ramp this thing up pretty quickly. And who better to do it against than their bitter rival in the Oregon State Beavers down in Corrales. So I think they try and go nuts against them today. I think they try and put up a big number. And to do that, I think Gabriel, they've already shown they want to, they're going for Heisman for him. We've talked about this before with Milroe. I think he goes big today, over 305.5 passing yards.
All right. I'm sticking in the running back position for these today. I think we have a couple big running back days. I'm going to start with Washington's running back, Jonah Coleman. His number is 82 rushing yards. This Washington State defense has been bad. He's their best player. I think they get him heavily involved. I think he goes over 92 today. So I'm going to take Jonah Coleman over 92.5 rushing yards.
Love it. Yes, 10K is tough for Gabriel. I think I'll play him a little bit. I don't think I can ignore it because I think there's value down low. And we'll talk about that real fast. But it's not going to be a heavy play for me. And then you ask Green or Holstein. I'm more on the Green bandwagon. But I will say this. Remember, West Virginia's pass defense is terrible. So there is a lot of value in Holstein. But I think can just get a little bit more rushing potential out of Green. And that's the reason. Holstein is more of a pure pocket passer. Plus, when you got Reed, why not?
There you have it. I'm going to give one more for today.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the running back for Minnesota, Darius Taylor. He's 89.5 rushing yards. I don't think this game will be close. I think they get a lead and they rely on the run to close it out. I think he gets there in volume. One of the best running backs in the country. Darius Taylor over 89.5 rushing yards.
All right, let's do this. Let's go out with some of our favorite plays and build a lineup real fast. Joel, you want to kick it off with one that your favorite play in the quarterback range? I think I know it, but
yeah, we'll start off with Green. Green, I think, is in too good of an environment, too good a spot against Pittsburgh, up and down pace. Let's start with Garrett Green, the quarterback.
And at 78, that's real good. I'm gonna go with the other guy you loved, and I love too, and I just think it's the right environment. A little expensive, but one I prefer, and that's Mateer out of Washington State. So if we can get John and Mateer in at 89 and Garrett Green at 78, we got 2 running quarterbacks that can really put the ball in the end zone with their legs or arms. So let's go running back. Who's one of your favorite running backs there?
Yeah, I'm going to start with locking in Darius Taylor, Minnesota. Yes. I think he's my favorite play of the day. He hasn't had a huge game yet, but people will say this is one of the best backs in the country. I think that game's coming. Yeah,
and to get a little bit of and hopefully we can fit this. Yeah, I think we can fit this in just to get a little bit of the game environment going. Since we got Green, I'll double back with Reed from Pittsburgh at 6,400 here. We want a little back and forth in that 62-point total game. So now we got Green and Reed. I think we got a pretty good environment starting to build in that game. Got one more. No, we got 3 receivers and a flex. So where are we going receiver? We got about 5,200 average.
I want to get value at receiver. I want to save some money here because I want to get another stud running back. So as a cheaper receiver, I like. I'm going to start with Tulsa's receiver Benjamin at 5,700. I think he's going to get pepper with targets today. They're going to be playing from behind. It seems like a really good game environment for him.
I like it. And because I took Mateer there and I love the 5,700, I'll go cheap. And I'll get us, back to a decent average here, which I mean, Benjamin does too. I'll go Chris Hudson. Said he's getting some good targets. If I like Mateer naked, but I don't mind getting one receiver involved in that potentially high scoring game. So give me Hudson at 4,900. We got 2 spots left, average 5,100.
All right, I'm gonna put you in a tough spot with the last pick, and I apologize.
Oh, good.
But I'm gonna take in our flex. I'm gonna take Coleman. I think we're getting in that game, that Washington State game. I think on the Washington side, Coleman's the best player. I think Washington's going to win the game, and they're going to score a lot of points. So I want to get some exposure to that offense.
Yeah, all good. We talked about this possibility earlier. It just 3,300 left. It leaves us just short.
Oh, I thought I might have left you with enough for Claire. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. But we had some other names. I want to try and.
Actually, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have done that if I know you wouldn't be able to get Claire.
No. I like that. Let's just go with it. I'm trying to see here. We had a couple that were down there. I want to see if there's any that I love that's left. Where I'm really interested in, I'm going to take a flyer on this. Okay, we're going to go Joshua Manning out of Missouri, and I'll post this for now that we could move that. But if we have a little bit of injury news to Burden or even Weiss, Manning steps up. He's had 5 catches already this year. And like I said, good game environment, one that I think Missouri tries to pass in. So I'll throw that in there for now, and then we'll see if we adjust by game time.
There you have it. That is a wrap for today. Big week ahead. I am excited for this slate of games. Opposite of last week, to me, a majority of the action is actually coming on the 3:30 slate, which makes it fun. We'll be climbing up leaderboards as the day goes on. Don't forget, give us a follow, smash the like button. It goes a long way. We appreciate you. Come back next week. Show us those green screens. Let us know how you did, and good luck.